Western Watersheds Project was created to protect and restore Western watersheds, streams, and wildlife. We use education, public policy initiatives, and legal action. We focus on removing the negative impacts of livestock grazing operations with a goal of restoring publicly owned landscapes to native, wild, functional, and resilient ecosystems. We seek compliance with several long-standing federal laws, including the Clean Water Act, Endangered Species Act, and the National Environmental Protection Act. No other conservation group focuses on the environmental impacts of the public lands livestock grazing programs like Western Watersheds Project. Western Watersheds Project has a challenging goal to protect threatened and endangered species and their habitats and lands and watersheds. By improving the land's resilience under climate stress, our goal is to dramatically decrease or end livestock grazing operations on Western public lands. We want to be able to expand our capacity across the West in order to have greater influence at the site-specific level, with more place-based knowledge, oversight, and participation in critical areas. Western Watersheds Project is the only West-wide organization with a clear mission of protecting and restoring arid ecosystems by ending public lands livestock operations. Our commitment to oppose industrialization of wild places is uncompromising. It begins with a fundamental and science-based understanding that the integrity of ecological function and resilience is absolutely vital for maintaining all life on this planet. This commitment provides leverage for our organization's success by allowing us to apply pressure to the bureaucratic structure through informed advocacy, innovative litigation, and strategic partnership and participation in public lands management. Western Watersheds Project is effective in part because of its exclusive focus on a single issue and the expertise we've developed regarding that issue over time. No organization has the institutional knowledge that we do, and very few have the stamina to navigate the bureaucracies of Western public lands management practices. Our staff of biologists, directors, and legal experts takes their love of nature and their knowledge of the wild back to their offices, advocating for the protection of the places and creatures they're so passionate about. That passion propels our success, and the horizontal decision-making structure of our organization fosters quick, meaningful response to urgent issues. There are multiple ways that we measure our success. For example, the number of acres freed from livestock grazing, clean streams flowing again, recovering species populations, and the legal victories that overturn adverse land management decisions and policies that harm millions of acres of wild places. But we also know our watchdogging influences the process of decision-making in ways that result in better outcomes, because the agencies know we're paying attention. Just being there brings more attention to the negative impacts on wildlife and plants from livestock grazing, a success that is really immeasurable. The fullest measure of our success will be when we put ourselves out of work, when our Western public lands are finally protected. Often people don't understand the difference between Western Watersheds Project and other conservation groups. The assumption is that we're all working on the same issues in a similar way. But our mission is unique in that it provides public oversight of the land management agencies' livestock grazing programs. These agencies manage over 250 million acres of lands across the West, or more than 80% of the land in the western United States. And most people don't realize that livestock grazing is the largest, most pervasive land use across the West. Western Watersheds Project has experienced many significant victories since our beginning in 1993. These victories have protected Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep from diseases by restricting domestic sheep in their habitat. We've also restored streams for threatened fish by excluding livestock from riparian areas and stopped grazing in prime sage-grouse habitat, improving the species' chance for survival. We've achieved a major victory when the courts rejected the implementation of new livestock grazing regulations affecting over 160 million acres of public land. These regulations were illegally issued and would have stripped environmental protection and oversight from grazing management in 11 Western public lands. Our success withstood even a Supreme Court challenge. Unlike the obvious effects of the clear-cutting of forests or strip mining, it can be hard to perceive the degradation associated with Western public lands' livestock grazing operations. The Western landscape has been so altered and damaged by decades of livestock grazing that many people think these poor conditions are normal. We also face an entrenched political structure of land control in the West that is not interested in reform. We are vulnerable to being painted as lawsuit-happy extremists, when in reality, we rely on federal laws and the best available science in our advocacy. Additional resources would allow us to more extensively work towards achieving our mission. By expanding our presence throughout the West, we would gain critical on-the-ground knowledge, improving our advocacy. More team members in more places would benefit watersheds and wild species protection and restoration. We would also focus on developing a comprehensive analysis of water quality and quantity, including the critical drying up of streams across the West due to livestock grazing, and use this information for educational purposes. Finally, we would advocate for federal legislation enabling voluntary grazing permit retirement. A change in policy would allow those permitted to receive compensation in exchange for permanently removing livestock from public lands. This would provide a long-term solution to this problem and is a win-win opportunity. Western Watersheds Project has a track record of success. We've demonstrated the ability to be a highly effective organization working on a small budget. However, gaps exist that, if filled, would bring us closer to fulfilling our mission. Adding full-time staff in key areas would provide broader geographic presence and relieve travel pressure on existing staff, and ensuring greater influence in Bureau of Land Management and Forest Service decision-making. We strive to educate state officials, water conservancy districts, and local communities about the cost of watershed and stream degradation to their water supplies. Adding technical field monitors to survey vegetative condition, soil health, and water quality would assist in these educational efforts. Finally, a presence in Washington, D.C. would better position us to reform land management policy, acting on critical opportunities from within the Beltway.